Right, what I'm going to do today is create some using Worksets and Worksharing. From experience, what I found is the best way to do this is by actually creating it and actually going through the process yourself, as it's very difficult to explain it without actually seeing it happen. So what we need to do first of all is open a drawing that we've got, or a project. Make sure that we make a copy of that project and then use the actual copied project rather than risk losing any work or risk creating any problems further down the line. So the first thing I've done is that I've opened the drawing. As I say, it's not a current project, it's just a project that I've been working on. There's not a lot of detail in the actual drawing itself. Now, as you can see across the bottom, what I've also got is 3 Windows Explorers. As we go through, I will explain, or will become apparent, why we've got 3 Windows Explorers open. What I've done is if you can look closely at the screen, I've named all 3. So in a sense, I've got 3 Windows Explorers and 3 empty folders. So I've got a new template, I've got a example keys, and I've got a example folder keys too. These are just so that I can now make sure that my files will be able to be shared with each other, and that we know exactly where the files are going, and so that anybody that wants to work on it can open the central folder or the central project and then have 2 shared projects working alongside that. Okay, right, as you can see as we've gone along, what I've got in the first folder on the left hand side in a new template is the project that we're currently working on. It's called the test project. As I say, that's all I've named it so that we can make sure that we're not using any others that we're going to lose or damage if we make any mistakes. Hopefully we won't, but we'll just see how we go along. Now, with Revit, what Revit tends to do is every time you click save, what it does, if you click save, what it does, it makes a copy of your project. Now, in AutoCAD, what it tended to do was create a copy and call it a backup file. Revit doesn't do that. It's still an RVT file, but if you notice across the top, it's got 0001.revit or .rvt file, which is just showing that it's got a backup from there. Now, if we click save again, and it'll save another one and another one, and it'll keep going until we tell it, or it'll tell it how many we have told it to save. To find this out, if we go into Revit, into the capital R in the top left hand corner, and click on save and save as project, all I'm going to do in this one is just click on options in the right hand corner, and if you look, I've got maximum backups, and in there it's 20. Well, in reality you wouldn't have that many, so I'm just going to reduce that to 3 and then click OK and cancel that off. And then, as I say, what it'll tend to do is just give us 3 backups or Revit files that we can use, and then it'll stop after that one. This tends to take up a lot of space. If you're creating backup after backup, all you're doing is just creating more files within that folder, and it'll just fill that folder with unnecessary files. So what I'm going to do with these backup files is, just so that we can keep it the actual exercise clear, I'm going to see if I can just delete those files off. I'm going to leave one in, just so that you have an idea of what we're talking about when we've got backup files in the actual folder itself. I don't want to have loads of files in there that are just going to take up space. Right, so the first thing I want to do is really just check to see who the owner is going to be of these actual projects themselves. So what we need to do first of all is just check who I am actually, the username is in the actual process itself. So if we go up to the capital R again, or the Revit sign in the top left hand corner, and click on options, if you notice what you've got there is username KCone. That's in a sense me. Now what you can do is change that to whoever you want to be the actual controller of the actual of the main project. What you've got to make sure is that you signed out of Autodesk 360. If you sign into Autodesk 360, sign out of it, and then you can be able to change the actual name itself. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the user interface, just to give you a little explanation of the type of things that you can alter within the options. It's all about creating keyboard shortcuts, about what's open, about what's not open. The electrical analysis tool is so that'll be open. Basically, in man, I've just got about everything open. You can alter that to whatever particularly suits you. Main thing I'm concerned about is the file location. File location, I've got to make a decision to where that main folder is going to be. Now, what I've got at the bottom is new template, which is where the main project was stored. Second folder I've got is where I'm going to save my local files. The third one in the bottom right hand corner is where we're going to save these files to be our, if you like, our third person, which I've just put as key 2. You can name that whoever you like, and do it the same way as I've done. Or if you work in a drawing office, you can name one of your colleagues as the actual user. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to browse. That will open my folders within there. So I'll go back to the main disk, or to the main C drive or D drive, where the actually folders are, and then we can pick the actual folder that we're going into. So I need a example folder key 2. I'm just going to click on it and open. And if you notice where it says default path for user files, it's now changed from kcon a example folder key 2. I'll click OK. Now that folder on the right hand side is where the next file is going to be saved. And as I say, what I'm going to become is a shared holder within that middle folder there. And what we've got our test project, where our central drawing is going to be. If we go along to the third one on the right hand side, this is where our third person, one of our colleagues if you like, is going to be able to save his local files. I'm going to be a second shareholder of these files, so I'll create them in that folder there. Right, so we know in a sense what we're going to do with this project. We're going to put it into 3 separate folders. We're going to be able to create work sharing within those folders, and also work sets, which will always give us the ability to bring in other drawings, to work with other drawings, to edit other drawings. If you bring in a mechanical template, you can alter that drawing as well. If you bring in an electrical one, you can do the same. What we've got to do now is create some work sets so that we can continue with that, and that we can create them into 3 separate folders. So the first thing that we're going to look at when we start doing this, or start creating the work sets, is if you go across the top ribbon at the top there and click on Calibrate. That then brings up this other ribbon that we've got information on there: copy monitor, coordination review, coordination settings, reconcile hosting, interface check. The one that we're concerned about in the left hand side is what we call work sets. Now if you click on work sets, you'll get this work sharing information. Now what it's saying there is the sharing of the project requires careful planning and management. Click OK to enable work sharing, or cancel to return to your project without enabling work sharing. What we've got to do, and this is why, as I say, that I've made a copy of the actual drawing itself, because once you've committed to this, you can't go backwards. You are then set with this work sharing exercise. So what we've got in the top is move levels and grids to work set, which you've got there, share levels and grids. That will share all levels and all grids within this exercise to the next project. Anything else that's attached with this drawing will as I say, be moved to what we call Workset 1 within there. Now what you've got the ability to do is click OK. This isn't a very detailed drawing, so it shouldn't take long for it to for Revit to convert it into a work sharing project. If you've got an awful lot of information in your drawing, if you've got a lot of floors in there, if you've got a lot of grids in there, if you've got a lot of mechanical devices such as ducting or furniture or electrical work within there, it could take a while for it to convert it, but this shouldn't take long. Now what you can do is you've got the ability to be able to click cancel if you have second thoughts. We're just going to go for it and we'll just see what happens. So if I click OK, it'll take a while for it to calibrate, and once it's calibrated and once it's set up, what you get up is work sets there. And if you notice what we've got, you've got shared levels and grids, editable yes, owner, K-code, okay, opened yes, visible in all views yes, and it's the same underneath, work sets yes, K-code yes, yes, and we've got on there. Okay, so that's what we've done now and completed. So we're part way to committing ourselves to creating some work. So what we've got here is information to what we can create in ourselves. If anybody's used AutoCAD 2013, 14 or 15, or if they've used any other CAD package, what you can equate this to is creating layers. So in layers, in AutoCAD 2015 or in AutoCAD 2013, whichever package you're using, you can have up to 96 separate layers. And when I talk about it, I often say that it's like a book. So everything that you start drawing is you draw on layer 0. After that, you're creating chapters or pages of that particular book with up to 96 chapters or 96 pages, whichever way you want to look at it. And that's what we're starting to do. That's what we're starting to create with this now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to continue, and I'm just going to click OK. As you can see, not a great deal's happened. What will happen, or what will start to work, is once we start to save the drawing or the project. Once we've started to save the project, it will then start to become apparent why we've created the 3 folders and why we're going to start creating work sharing files. Right, so what I'm going to look at doing now is I'm going to actually save this project now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to save it into the same folder that we started with, a new template, and I'm going to put an added name to it, and I'm just going to call it Worksets, which will then tell us, or tell me, that we're now creating an actual workset project. What we also need to do is to check in the top left hand corner and keep an eye on the 2 buttons. We've got in there the save button, and next to it, grayed out, is what we call the synchronized saving button. Those 2 will become apparent when we start saving the actual project themselves. So what I'm going to do is go to File, Save As Project. What I'm going to do is put it into the same folder that we've got the test project into, but at the end of it I'm going to put in Worksets or Workset. Okay, that'll be fine. And if I click Save, if you notice what it does, once it saves it, it puts into that folder 2 new folders. What it's put in there is Revit Temp. Okay, that one should be empty at the moment because that is where we're going to temporarily store files within the actual folder itself. Underneath it there's another project, another folder, and which is saying Test Project Workset Backup. Now when we were talking earlier and we talked about the actual project itself being saved or created backups, if you notice it's put a backup on that folder there, but there's still a folder there with 004.rvt. They're still RVT files, they're not backup files. Our project, test project _workset, is at the bottom, which we've named. if you look into that test project folder, just double click on open it, if you'll notice in there, there's nothing in there that we can open. There's no files that can activate anything. There's no RVT files. What you're looking at are basically data files. What it's done, it's stored information within that folder, so that we now become reliant on Revit itself to start creating backup files or start creating the actual project itself. So we've saved our project, sorry, within that folder, and we've got Revit temp, we've got test project work set, and we've got a project 004, which is a backup file. We've got the test project that we created first. Then also we've got our test project workset workset.rvt file. Now if we go back into Revit itself, and you notice that the buttons in the top left hand corner that I was talking about earlier on, what we've got is, next to the save button, we've got highlighted now Synchronizing Out, and that is telling us that we're working within the central file itself, within the main actual project itself. What we're going to do is to come out of this project, and we're going to create another project which will then enable us to start work sharing our actual project itself. So as I was saying, what we've got is, with the save button grayed out, and we've got our synchronize button at the top left hand corner, which is telling us that we're working in the central file. In a way, this is the wrong file or wrong project that we need to be working in. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to close it down. What we then get is back to the main screen where we can open our files from. Now what I will suggest is that don't be tempted to open your files from the symbols that you've got, or the icons that you've got in front of your screen now. If you tend to do that, what you can cause yourself is problems further down the line as we go down the line. What I would suggest all the time is that you open it from the actual file itself. Now we're going to open this, and what we've got to make sure is that create new file is highlighted at the bottom. So if I click on work set, what it automatically does for us is say to us now it's going to create a local file. Now that will send a copy to the local file that you've created for it to go into. It will also do some other things to the actual Revit package itself. It will update any drawings, it will update any project, it will update any templates, it will update any families that you've got in there, such as, I don't know, furniture or doors or windows or anything like that, will be updated and created in the actual folder itself. So what I'm going to do is just click on open. It will open the file, which it has done there. What it's also done, in the example folder, key 2, which you'll notice in there, is put a backup file within there. It's also put the test project in there, but what it's done is it's amended it with a different name. It's got in there workset underscore kcone backup, and that's because I've used a different username as we set out at the beginning. This then now is one shared file that we've already created. If you go into Revit itself, you'll now see that both the buttons at the top are actually open now, which you've got the save button and the synchronize button at the top that are both highlighted in Revit itself. So what we've got here, just before I go a little bit further on, what I just want to make sure that we've got is, in the top left hand corner we've got the two buttons that are active now. Across the top we've got test project workset kcone.rvt floor plan ground level. Now that's just to say that that's one that we've got open. Okay, and that's telling us that that is now shared within that local folder. When you, as I said, if we go back to when we was opening anything, be careful not to use any of the shortcut icons within that particular area itself. Make sure that you always open using the actual open button that we've got there, browse to the folder that you're going to use, and sorry, just before I go on, what I've got to do is change the username. Now then, this is something that you've got to really be to be sure of, and I should have pointed this out earlier on. So what we've got to do is make sure that we change the username within the actual package itself. So again, if I go into the Revit there, and if I go to options, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that to the username to Kcone, and I'm going to put if I just put Kcone, leave that there. I'll tell you what I can do is I can leave that there. I can leave the username as Kcone. What I'm going to make sure I do is change the file location, where the actual location is going to be. So I'm going to keep the user interface, into general, and make sure that Kcone or your name is there as the username. Then I'm going to go to file location. I'm going to change the user path. So I'm going to go to browse, which will open up the drive that I'm saving my files to. Go into that one, and this time I'm going to make sure that I save this one in a example Keith, and click open and click OK. Now if I open this file, go to open, browse to the folder where the actual test piece is in a new template, click on a work set, make sure at the bottom we've got create new local ticked, and if we click open, as you can see in the middle folder now it clicks up and picks open and opens again a backup file and the actual project file itself. So far we've got a central project, then we've got our second shared project in example folder Keith 2, and then we've got our third project in example Keith. So we've got 3 folders now with 3 projects within that actual Explorer file. So just to go back and just track a bit back to where we was going there, first of all, within the 2 drawings that we've opened now, whichever one you're looking at, in the left hand one side of the screen I'm looking at the moment now, within there we've got our 2 icons open. We've got our save and then we've got our synchronize now. What this is telling us is that we should, or you should, save your work regularly. Most PCs, or most PCs that you have in drawing offices, we certainly do at the college, they're set to save automatically every 10 minutes. Now that can get a little bit too much, because what you're doing is creating and continuing to creating backup files, I think, unnecessarily. If you're aware and if you're wary, what you can do is just make sure that every 20 minutes or so you make sure that you save your project itself. But what Synchronize does is, if I just click on the settings, on the Synchronize settings there, what I've got there is ticked save local file before and after synchronizing with the central one. At the top there you've got the central file. That is where your central file is saved, in a new template test project _ workset.rvt. As we go down there, we've got the save local file before and after synchronizing with the central. What that's saying is that each one of those drawings will automatically save to the local file any alterations, anything that we do to it as we work along. What it'll also do is it'll send back to the main central file again any alterations that we do. So if you've got 3 or 4 drawings open, within this example I'm using 2 similar drawings. They're both the same. But if you can imagine that if you've got 4 or 5 draftsmen working on one project, one doing windows, one doing ducting, one doing stairs, one doing walls, those files can all be synchronized back to the main template project, which in a sense is keeping a check on it. Other packages have the similar sort of thing. Inventor, which is an Autodesk project, has a system what they call Vault. Again, the main project is stored in a central vault and people are given access to certain parts of that drawing. This is the same. You only allow the people that you want access to the project. This saves on time, it saves on mistakes, and it also saves on people altering things without telling the main, if you like, workshop manager or drawing office manager, which is an important part of keeping your drawings safe.